If the first one is leading from the front, so doing global driven campaigns, I think the second one is, second step is leading from the side. So actually working on a pilot with a forward-thinking affiliate to be able to tell the story that you've had a real business impact. And I think first thing to do is set KPIs based on a real strategic need and measure, because one thing I've found is that once you have a very good case study to tell, everybody listens to see how this can be rolled out into their market. And the best thing about working on a pilot is that you actually get face time that you don't normally get with affiliates. So if you're working together with them, it's an opportunity to really educate on the way you want to do content marketing, because eventually our team, as Tim will touch on, who's my boss a little bit later, we probably won't exist anymore. The idea is that all the marketers are upskilled. They will deliver content in the markets. So if they are going to be the people that are leading content marketing in the organization, it's an opportunity to really get them along and get them working. And I think the last thing is actually creating advocates, because when you're working with them on a regular basis and they can see the results that are tied back to a specific need, then they tell other people within the organization. And when you have that organizational, in terms of change management, if you have that organizational feeling of things are changing, these things are new, but also these things are adding value to the business, it makes a big difference. So I think after that, once you've got a really good example and you're really walking the walk, both at the global and affiliate level, telling them what they don't know is the most important step, because I think many of you guys have probably opened up reports or articles that say, 5 best examples of content marketing or 5 best examples of customer experience, only to open something that basically has been said multiple times, probably with slightly different buzzwords. And I think when we're speaking to people at the local level as well, ensuring that we're telling them things that they may not necessarily have themselves in terms of their data. And I think that data can come from some of the global activities that you're launching, really does add a lot of color to the conversation. So ensuring that we're telling them, how people are interacting with the content that's being put out there within their region, and telling them the differences between physicians in their market and some of the and patients in their market, and some of the differences that are occurring across different cultures and across different regions, and some considerations they might want to make. Talking about resounding success as well. When you do talk about success in other markets, I think it does prick up some ears. It's not just that things are being delivered in markets, but things are actually going very well. It makes a big difference. And then talking about how potentially we can do something new together. This has been a great point, because it's one thing having consistency in the markets. If people localize something, it doesn't necessarily mean that they, number one, care about it. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to promote it. But also, whether anybody likes it at global or not, people are going to develop local assets. People are going to develop local campaigns. And if we really want consistency, if they're part of our mindset and they believe what we believe about content marketing, when they do something new, they'll do it along the same lines. And I think that's where we really want to get to. If anybody does a local campaign, it is similar to a campaign that we would have done at global level as well, because they believe the same thing that we believe. So it's about telling them what they don't know. Now, I think one of the big successes that we did have was when we do have a meeting when all the countries are together, and we do have a successful pilot. This is what really lit the fire, because we had one of the affiliates talking about the presentation. So it wasn't necessarily that we were going out and talking about it, but they're the ones who lit the fire for the rest of the affiliates. They told them about their successes, and they talked about how they're not just starting this as a project, but they're going to continue this as a strategy going forward. And I think if you can start to prove that value with just one, it starts to almost a domino effect. So letting the affiliates light the fire is very important, and getting them to really influence everybody else. Now, in terms of the localization process itself, there's been a lot of learnings here. It's actually, there's different ways that different people like to work. We've had a fantastic agency partner in H4P who are in the building. But what we've worked on is this localization process that is not only us being able to localize our global assets, but if something happens that's fantastic in a market, and we're working with them, being able to rapidly globalize that. And I think lessons can be taken from other industries and other brands. Coca-Cola, I don't know if you've seen the name, Coca-Cola names on the bottles, and that started in one market and was rapidly globalized as well. And they have a process for that. So I think we understood that there was a lot of great ideas that were coming from these markets, but for figuring out a process and being able to globalize, that was really important. Involving affiliates in the development of key assets. I think a lot of the things we heard in the past was that things were coming up out of nowhere, and then they were being told to localize it. And I think involving them in the conversations, involving their customers in the conversations, and being able to understand, from a local perspective, does this work? Giving them the opportunity to be able to feed into that has worked absolutely wonders when it comes to actually localizing it. Collaborating cross-functionally, but with key stages of sign-off. Now, this sounds actually quite simple, but this, I'm telling you, can be an absolute nightmare. Unless you've got really strong periods of sign-off, what you get is a lot of back and forths. So collaborating cross-functionally, yes, is really important, but ensuring that there are rigid timelines in which, really, at milestones, you have to get this sign-off. So that's been really important too. And the last one is technology. There's a lot of great localization software out there, and I won't necessarily go into the detail, but I think using technology where it's available and to be able to streamline this is quite important. Now, this is, I think, one of the points that all affiliates definitely do look at. I think consistency being the last refuge of the unimaginative. We can't use consistency as an excuse not to innovate. I think we can use consistency as a platform for innovation. If we have innovation, if we have consistency across different markets, we can start to look at and test new ideas everywhere. And I think that's a responsibility from global. I mean, we should be funding great ideas that come from affiliates. We should, if somebody has an idea, they shouldn't think, where am I going to find the budget? We should be finding the budget for great ideas and then rapidly globalizing if they work. So in terms of the approach, I think it's letting the best idea win, and that is having the rapid globalization process in place, being an advocate of the affiliates. And there's many times that we've had lots of different people come up to us and say, we're thinking of this idea, but we don't necessarily have budget for it. What can happen? And I think you just have to find the budget. You have to work on their behalf to be able to find the budget. So we can test these ideas, and if they work, roll them out. And the last one is test. Continually try to push the envelope here. And I think you start to get a bit of momentum behind it when they can see that they're allowing, you're enabling innovation rather than trying to stifle it by having consistency across markets. So in terms of the key learnings that we've learned, I guess defining consistency and why it matters. So consistency for consistency's sake doesn't mean anything, especially to people in the local markets, But consistency for being able to test and continually provide rapid insight to the affiliates through whatever tools you already have available, but also through the communications that you have with them already is really important. Then defining what good content is, an identity for the company, how you are going to communicate with content, building on the insight that you have with your customers, and then communicating that consistently has been quite important for us as well. Walking the talk. I think in a lot of cases, we've actually said that, you have to invest in this. This will work. Putting your neck on the line is actually, in some cases, especially if you want to drive change, it's just necessary. You have to do it. And I think without doing that, we wouldn't have got the change that we've had. Communicating your success continuously and delivering insight again, but also supporting innovation. I think in the local level, there's probably a perception that if they don't work by themselves, they'll never get approval for certain things, or if they don't fund with their budgets at local level, things won't happen. But I think you have to, as a global organization, start to fund these local initiatives as well. And involve local markets when it comes to implementation. I think that goes without saying with regards to not just the affiliates that are important from a marketing perspective, but also the customers as well. If you can start to build in processes that get rapid testing and people and focus groups around iterative improvements to your content, that's when you start to see some really good gains and also some uptake from affiliates. So hopefully that's given a little bit of a flavor of what we do at Lundbeck in terms of content marketing. And I think I'll hand it over to Christopher to close. No problem.